What's up, everyone? Zach here, bringing another Team Taste Tournament report. You want to taste? Today, I'm bringing you my top 4 League Cup report from Gamers Gauntlet League Cup over the weekend. I played ZoroCounters. It's a really fun deck, really strong in this meta, I think. And yeah, I'll get right on into it. So first, playing for Zorua, standard in any Zoroark deck. Now, there's an argument to be made that you can play the Moonless Madness Zoroark because you're playing, or Zorua, because you're playing the counter energies, so you could theoretically confuse someone, but I kind of like the Ram. Sometimes that 20 damage actually can be huge against, especially if you choice band it and hit like a Zoroark, then you can come in with a Riotous Speeding with another choice band to knock it out, and a Kukui, I guess. But yeah, it's really strong. And then I'm playing 4 Zoroark GXs. You gotta play the 3 different arts to tilt people, but I'm not playing any stand-in. I don't think it's necessary. I just like the draw power that Zoroark GX gives you. So, we got 4 Zoroark GXs, the mainstay of the deck. And then we got 3 Lele's. Don't want a dead draw, even though I find myself starting them what seems to be every game, but it's still not the worst in the world. The one retreat's not bad, and Energy Drive is a good attack, so 3 Lele's for that consistency. Then we got 2 Tapu Koko promos. Tapu Koko promos huge in this deck. Zoroark being your main attacker, you can use a promo, the Flying Flip, to set up knockouts against Zoropods, the big one. If you Flying Flip twice, then you can Choice Band and Kukui with a Riotous Speeding to knock out his Zoroark GX or his Golisopod. So 2 Koko's huge, plus starting it's amazing, and you always want to get it onto your bench, so if your opponent knocks something out, you can come back at it with a counter attacker. Speaking of which, we got our one-off counter attacker. So we got Sudowoodo, Watch and Learn, really good against just about, everything. Especially anything that's hitting you big, like Bulu and Ho-Oh are the 2 big ones. The Phoenix Burn from a Ho-Oh with the Choice Banded Sudowoodo, you still one-shot a Ho-Oh, so it's really big. And along the same lines, we have Copycat Mimikyu, which is almost as good as Sudowoodo, but it can't copy GX attacks. But it really doesn't matter a lot. You can use it against Buzzwole and anything Psychic weak, like Espeon or GX. And overlooking Sudowoodo's biggest typing advantage against Zoroark, you can just Riotous Beating after the Zoroark. And then we got my favorite attacker, Shaman, from Shining Legends. Most people don't even know what it does. Rally Back does 30 plus 90 if your opponent knocked out one of your Pokemon last turn, so that's really all you're ever going to be using it for. And hitting the 120 is really big against stuff like Garb and anything Grass Weak, obviously. That's why you have the different types in here. But stuff like Lycanroc and Zygarde if they're attacking against Psychic. And then we got Cobalion, which is actually not... It's for the Gardevoir matchup, but it's really just for anything. If it gets down to it where, you have, 3 prizes left and your opponent has, 1 or 2 prizes left, the Revenge Blast just hits for crazy numbers. And it's just good against anything, including, against Zoroark and especially Guardy. And then we were playing 1 Giratina promo. Still not sure about that inclusion. There was no, Greninja at our tournament this week, but you never really know. We were talking about cutting it for Charlotte, but I know if 3 of us go and play the deck, the one person that runs into Greninja is going to be pretty salty that they cut it, but I don't know. That could be a spot just used for more consistency or something. I don't know. And then we got 1 Mew EX to copy Riotous Beatings, the main one for the Buzzwole matchup. A lot of times you can get a turn 2 Mallow trade into Mew and just knock out a Buzzwole, and they can't really respawn from there. There are some things they can do, like bring up a Zygarde, but then if Zygarde starts running wild, then you can just come back at it with a Shaman and then eventually just puzzle to get your Mew back. So it's pretty big. Mew's awesome in this deck. And then jumping on into the supporters, we have 3N. Simple. End's obviously really good, and especially a deck that you're going to be going behind on prizes and want to catch up, and it can be huge. Then we got 2 Cynthia, and this is kind of where the deck list starts changing from the one that I It was Zach Bakari's deck. I think he got top 16 at St. Louis, and he wasn't playing any Cynthia. He was playing heavier Sycamore count, and I think he played one more N. But I'm still playing one Sycamore. It's good, especially turn 1, and sometimes you can just throw away some items, or like whatever you have in your hand, but a lot of times you want to keep those resources around. And then we got 3 Bridget. I think I missed turn 1 Bridget like maybe 2 times the whole tournament, so having 3 Bridgets in there and the 3 Lele's give you so many outs for that turn 1 Bridget. Then we're playing 3 Guzmas. Pretty standard. You want to be able to Guzma around, and usually you're only Guzmaing twice a game, but you can't really afford to only have 2 in there, especially if you're throwing away 1. And then our one-off supporters, we got Mallow. You know, like I said earlier, Mallow to find Mew DCE turn 2, or just even Mallow into a trade for anything you need, especially like Mallow into counter energy, Sudowoodo to knock out that pesky Zoroark that just knocked you out. And then we also have 1 Kukui. There's an argument to raise this to 2, but I think with the 2 Cocos, just 1's fine, especially you can puzzle it for it back, but its main purpose is to hit the numbers against other Zoroark decks and Galistopod. So I think this supporter line's pretty stable. I'd be keeping it roughly the same. And then items, we got 4 Ultra Balls, standard. 4 puzzles. Puzzles are really good with Zoroark, it turns out. We got 3 Field Blowers. 3 Field Blowers seems about necessary against like Parallel City decks and Garb decks especially. You can sometimes try to talk yourself into going to the 4th, but the 4th Field Blower is really not going to help you against Garb decks, I found. I think that 3 is just that magic number. And then we got 3 Choice Bands. A lot of times you're going to be wanting to attack with Zoroark, so the Choice Bands help you hit a lot of the numbers. Like a Flying Flip and then a Choice Band Zoroark knocks out a Lele. Really good stuff there. Then we got 2 Evo Sodas. Evo Sodas just help you get out the Zoroarks super fast. And I had a couple games where I started like 3 Zoros on the bench, or like after I turn 1 Bridget. Turn 2 hit like Zoroark, Evo Soda, Cynthia, 3rd Zoroark, and get 3 trades. Turn 2 you could get whatever you want basically at that point. And then for our one-off items, we got 1 Max Potion. It kind of takes that spot of the Acerola, but you can support her and still use it. You lose your double colorless, but really you shouldn't be needing more than your 4 in a game, and you have your puzzles to get it back. We got 1 E-Hammer. It can just be so situational to help out against just all the random stuff. And then we got 1 Rescue Stretcher. Having a lot of one-off attackers, it's really good to have 1 Rescue Stretcher to help get something back to bring. Like, sometimes they focus on your Sudowoodo, and you can Rescue Stretcher and just knock them out with that same Sudowoodo. They just Guzma to knock out. So 1 Rescue Stretcher, huge. And then we got 1 Float Stone. I would always, like, it's one of those things you always want more Float Stones, but you can't really justify them, especially with 2 Cocos. It seems like the 1 Float Stone's usually good enough, and a lot of times you can retreat into Coco turn 1 and all that good stuff. But yep. Then our energy line is the 4 obvious double colorless, and then what everyone couldn't figure out all tournament was 3 counter energies. A lot of times, sometimes they think you're playing 1, and then you throw 1 away, and then you come at them with another one, and after that second one gets discarded, it's like, oh man, do they have 4? But I think the 4th is unnecessary. If you're going up to an 8th energy, we were trying fighting energy for a little bit, but it just was underwhelming. So I think you could play Rainbow Energy, and that would make all your Shaman, Mimikyu, and Sudowoodo be able to attack, and your Mew even would be able to copy things. But I think it's just not necessary. I think the 3's a good enough number. So, yep, that's the deck. It's really interesting to play. It took a lot of practice to get used to some of the matchups. Like, a lot of times you want to be sacrificing Pokemon early, especially like your Cocos, and just like early Zoruas aren't bad to when your opponent focuses them down, because it just gives you a chance to use your counter energies early and take a prize lead early. There's a lot of games where you come down to like 1 prize, and that can be tricky. Sometimes you want to play around and not take that 1 prize attacker and set yourself up for a Guzma for the last 2 prizes. And sometimes your opponent's going to be like in that situation where they have to take that 1 prize attacker to go down to 1 prize, or, you know, it's a really strange deck. has a lot of little intricacies, and I love it. It's awesome. So I'll get right on into my tournament report. So round one went up against fellow squad mate Mark playing Zoropod, and that's one matchup I've been practicing a lot with this, and I feel like I have it down pretty well. You just flying flip early. As long as you get 2 flying flips off, then you can get the Kukui, Choice Band, Zoroark knockout onto Glissopods or anything really. The Zoroarks, and then you can clean up on a Lele late game. So you're not really relying too much on the counter energies. Sometimes you want to flip a couple times, and then when they knock you out, you can respond with Sudowoodo to go down to 4 prizes, and then you can clean up the last 2 with, like, on a Lele and then another Zoroark. So, ended up being a really close match, but the early flying flips just kind of won me the game. So, went up 1-0, or, starting off the day strong. And then round 2, played against GNG Cards George. He was playing his Sylveon with the 101 Guardian 1 Hoopa, so I think it was just Xander Bennett's list. And Sylveon's an awful matchup for this deck. It just kind of steamrolls it, because if they're not taking prizes, then the counter energies are essentially useless, and then we have the 4 double colorless to attacks with, and they have Parallel City, which makes it so you can't 2-shot the Sylveon. So really tough. I actually almost took it. I was disrupting all his magical ribbons, and eventually one of them stuck where he had the choice to either max potion and not magical ribbon to find his cards, or you could max potion and, or not max potion, take the knock, or let him knock him out. There we go. But he would have got the 3 cards and got out of his dead draw, and he chose to max potion, and that almost won me the game. And then I needed one more attack, and he top decked the E-Hammer to hit my last energy, and so that was game from there. Then round 3, played against Buzzgarb. It was really unfortunate for him, so I went first and started Mew, and he's like, okay, attaches to the Buzzwole on the bench, and then elixirs 1 and misses it. He's like, okay, that's cool. And then he elixirs again and misses that, and then he ended up Guzmaing instead of a Sycamore I think he had in his hand, and took out a Zorua, and I just evolved up into Zoroark, Mallowed, trade into the double colorless, and knocked him out. So it was, he said if he hit the 2 elixirs, he could have Sycamored and hoped to hit a Float Stone, which they're playing 4, so, and he would have been able to get the turn 1 knockout on Mew, which would have been huge. And then I would have had to find like a Rescue Stretcher or something, which I think I still had the Mallow, so I would have been able to find it, but it was still, he only could take 1 prize that turn, and couldn't really recover for that. He ended up, I think, benching another Buzzwole and attaching and passing, and I got a Guzma on that, and at that point, when you go up 4 prizes at turn 2, it's just kind of game. So I'm 2-1 heading into round 4, and I play against Ho-Oh. And Ho-Oh, it was like a Ho-Oh Salazzle fire deck, and that is one of my favorite matchups to see, because you can, if they're not taking big Phoenix Burn knockouts, you can flying flip them with the double colorless and choice band for 100, and then they have to take care of the Coco, and you can just respond with a Sudowoodo or Mimikyu, or even at that point a Shaman, or even a Zoroark. So it's really quite big. You can just swing the matchup really well. There's like a moment early on I was kind of drawing slow, but I played my Mimikyu down, and I'm like, ooh, I hope he doesn't focus it down, and he ends up Phoenix Burning my Coco. I promote Mimikyu, attach a counter energy and choice band, and knock out the Ho-Oh, and he really didn't have much to respond. I think at one point he missed a Nitro Tank that he should have got off, which would have helped him, but I don't think it would have been enough still. When you flying flip with the Coco, it just sets up the numbers onto like a Guzma, onto a Lele at a later point. So took that series, and I was 3-1 heading into the 5th round, and I played against Philip playing Savali, Zoroark, Psychic. So it's this really neat deck. It had a thick Zoroark line, and then I think it had like a 3-3 Savali line or something along those lines with Psychic. And I'm not sure if he had any Psychic attackers with him, but I know he had a Dawn Wings, and and he was playing elixirs and the fire fighting memories to help against Zoroark, and he just had a slow start, couldn't get out the Savali's. He ended up taking a knockout with type null actually, and like he had an elixir attachment Guzma, but he really didn't have anything else from that. I think at one point he Cynthia'd into 5 energies and an elixir, so that's kind of a bummer sometimes, but we take those. So I end up pulling that one out. So 4-1 heading into the 6th round where I got ID with Bodon. It's always good to ID a fellow teammate like late in the day. So I think that made him, so he's 4-0-2 and I was 4-1-1, so we wouldn't see each other in top 8 most likely either. So heading into top 8, I get matched up against Drampa Garb, and my brother lost to this matchup earlier in the day, or the same guy actually, and so we knew a lot about his deck, but I still wasn't really that enthusiastic about playing a Drampa Garb. So it was like a Drampa with 2/2 Espeon line in it too, with like 2 Drampas and a thick Garb line. So his game plan was to Parallel City me down to 3 and Garbotoxin, Righteous Edge, and N every turn. And it worked quite well. Game 1, he actually prized both his Drampas, and I ended up taking a knockout. It was kind of greedy. I used my Mew to knock out Espeon, knowing that he was going to respond with the knockout, but his from that knockout he grabbed his Drampas in Parallel City, so ended up being a poor play on my part. I think I would still take that 9 times out of 10 though. So I ended up losing that first close game 1. I got down to 1 prize and lost. The second game, another really close game. He was Righteous Edge Acerola looping me for a little bit, but I played a little more conservative, didn't hit the Drampas unless I knew like I end him that turn, and it came down to where I had a boatload of items in my discard, and he took a 1 hit with the Drampa onto my Zoroark to go down to 1 prize, and I was at 2, and I needed to top deck my puzzle. I had 3 puzzles in deck out of like a 10 card deck, and I needed to get the puzzle, and top deck the puzzle, double puzzle for Guzma counter energy, and Guzma to Drampa, and knocked out the Drampa with the Sudowoodo counter energy, and he had like 5 items in the discard, so I watched and learned the Trash Lanch, and it was perfect numbers to knock out the Drampa, so won that second game, and I knew at this point it was a 60-minute round, and we were playing for at least like 45 minutes, so his game plan was really slow. He would just Righteous Edge and, you know, hope I don't hit him, and if I attach another energy, he would Righteous Edge again. So we ended up going to time when we were both at 5 prizes, and I eventually got to the spot where I had Field Blower, Guzma, energy in hand, and he was turn 3, so it went back to me, and it was sudden or overtime at that point, and I got to Guzma the Garbodor, Field Blower the Parallel City, put 2 on my bench, and knock out the Garb with my Riotous Beating. So ended up winning that on the technicality. I'm not sure how that game would have played out. I had a lot of items in the discard, but he couldn't get Trebuchets down. Whoop, 1 second. Yeah, so it would have been a close game. I'm not sure how it would have played out, but would have came down right to it again. And then, so top 4 moved on to play Alex Shemansky. So, you know, one of the Shemansky brothers. Really good player. He was playing Zoroark Garb, and it was a pretty cool list. I won't get into the details of it, but the whole bursting balloons onto the Garb, and it just, like, he was playing a heavy E-Hammer count, so I ended up, the one game I drew, puzzled, saw nothing in my next 3 turns, and was like, pass, and then I drew Guzma, pass, and then all he needed was an energy to win, and he got that, so took a quick game 1. Then game 2, it was really close. I ended up flying flipping like 6 times or something like that, and set up knockouts onto his Zoroarks, and then he was Acerola looping, so quite unfortunate for me, but the Garbotoxin on my turn and not his turn is just huge in that matchup. When they get a trade with their Zoroarks and you don't get a trade with yours, it's pretty one-sided. Especially when they E-Hammer and NU to 4 and then Garbotoxin you just kind of go, oh, that's cool, I'll pass. So yeah, that was how I got eliminated. So ended up top 4 plus 32 points. So I think that puts me at like 264. So I'm still feeling really good about my invite. Almost there. Hopefully we'll get in within the next like couple months. I'm hoping to get it before internets, but you know, I have another like 3 regionals to go to, so it's gonna be really fun. Charlotte's gonna be this weekend, and we're going with the squad, so it's gonna be a good time. Shout out to G&G Cards for sponsoring me for this tournament. So I think we're gonna be working together in the future. Haven't ironed out the plans yet, but looking forward to it. And yeah, I think that's about it. So remember, like, comment, share, subscribe. All that helps out. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers, so expecting hopefully we can hit that with that big push for the next Sun and Moon set. Forbidden Light, I think it's called. So I should have some Lucario games out next week. Looking forward to playing that. But yeah, gonna be making a big push for next format. So I'll talk to all you guys later. See ya.